Okay, this is 8th grade activity 5.2. In this activity, students will be reviewing the sum of the angles of the triangle. They will also classify those triangles according to their angles and side lengths. So today we're going to be introducing them to the different names of a triangle. You'll be using your practice journal for this. It's actually page 100. But out of the hardcover book, if you're needing to reference some things, it's page 190 through 195. Okay, so page 100 out of your practice journal actually has a picture of 5 triangles, and then there's also, I believe, 6 triangle names along the left-hand side of the page. We're actually going to add one more to the bottom, so you'll actually create a letter G on there, and we'll go through that when we get to the next page of this slide. So today we're going to work on naming triangles according to their angle measures. An acute triangle is going to contain only acute angles. The most important part of naming a triangle according to its angle measures is actually identifying the largest angle measure, and then that is the angle that is going to actually name the triangle. The only time that won't work is if all of your angles are the same, and then it has a special name. So if you look at your largest angle measure and it's less than 90 degrees, then the entire triangle would be considered an acute triangle. So you're going to go ahead and, as I'm going through this lesson, I want you to write the definitions to your triangle names on page 100 of your practice journal. So this was actually letter B. It's not in the exact same order on my slides as it is in your book. Okay. The next one that I have on the slide is called an obtuse triangle. So an obtuse triangle is going to contain one obtuse angle. So once again, just to kind of point out to you that you're going to look at your largest measure of your triangle, and that angle is going to actually give the name of the triangle. So here I had a 100-degree angle that you can see on the screen. That's an obtuse angle, so the entire triangle becomes an obtuse triangle. Okay, and that was letter C in your book, so make sure you're marking under the obtuse triangle, which was letter C. The next one is a right triangle, which is actually letter A in your book, and that is going to contain one right triangle. So once again, when I look at this triangle, the largest angle measure is right here, and it says 90 degrees. So a 90-degree angle is considered a right angle, so the entire triangle takes on the name of a right triangle. Also on this, another thing that they may do when they have a right triangle is instead of having the number 90, they may have the box. And so just remember that anytime you have a box in the corner, that means that that's a right angle. Okay, equal angular triangles. When we work with equal angular, that means if you kind of look at the first part of this, equal kind of sounds like equal. Well, that's where you're going to have all angles that are equal. So here we have a triangle that is showing all 60-degree angle measures, meaning all of the angles are exactly the same. Okay, the key thing to remember is a triangle does also have 180 degrees. So in the lesson that we'll do after this, you'll be working with solving for a missing and then classifying your triangle according to its angles as well as its sides. So let's go ahead and go into side lengths and how you name a triangle according to its sides. So at the bottom of your page 100, I need you to write the letter G, and then you're going to write the word scalene and leave enough room that you can write either underneath of it or next to it for the definition. So scalene needs to be added to your page 100. Okay, so when you classify triangles according to their side lengths, you're going to be either looking for one of two things. You're going to be looking for markings on the outside of the triangle, or you're going to be looking at the angles of the triangle to help you decide what type of triangle it would be according to its sides. Some of you are probably saying, why would I look at the angles? Well, we'll discuss that in just a second. So here, an equilateral triangle, lateral means sides, equal, once again, means equal, is where you're going to have all sides that are equal. So what I'm saying is when you look at a triangle, they're either going to give you markings like this. And if you notice, they each have 2 markings on each side. That 2 markings is just saying that each of those sides are the same length. So if I knew that one of them was, say, 3 inches, every side that had that marking would also be 3 inches. Okay, it's just another way of them showing without having to actually give measurements of the sides. The other thing that I was stating earlier is the other way is, had they not had markings on here, because sometimes they don't, or sometimes you're solving for a letter and they're not marking on the triangle. The other way to tell is if you have all of your angles equal, then all of your sides are also equal in side length, okay? So our next one is an isosceles triangle. An isosceles triangle is a triangle that has two sides that are equal to each other. An easy way to remember this one is if you think of the beginning part of this word, iso, reminds me of the word isolate, okay? So here, yes, there are two sides that are the same, but there is also one side isolated that is different than the rest, okay? So that's the way that I remember which one is which when it comes to isosceles and scalene. That isosceles reminds me of the word iso, or to isolate, and I just remember that there's one side isolated or kind of standing by itself. That's how I can go through and remember the difference between these two. So once again, I wanted to point out the markings. We had one marking on each of those sides. It's just telling us that those two sides are in the same length. Also notice that when you look at the angle measures, you have two 70-degree measures, which is also identifying to us, even if they had not put those markings on there, that there are two sides that are the same length. And those sides are always going to be diagonally across from those degree measures. Okay, letter G is scalene triangles, and scalene triangles are going to be triangles that have no sides that are equal to each other. So once again, if you look at this one, there are no markings because there are no sides that are the same, but you can also identify because you have different angle measures on each of these, which means you then also have different side lengths. Okay, and that's just what I have written down here, is I wanted to make sure that I went through with you that you can also look at those angle measures to help you with deciding whether or not you have two sides or three sides that are the same. If you look at the angle measures and they're different, then that means that all of your side lengths are different. Even though maybe you have some that are really close and they look like they're the same, if those angle measures are not exactly the same, then the side lengths are not exactly the same. Okay, that's basically it for this lesson. So what I want you to do for your activity is on that page 100, I want you to go ahead and classify each of those 5 triangles in the 2 different formats. So if you would mark off on your A through D, just maybe put a box around your A through D like this, knowing that you have to pick one of these because you're going to name each triangle according to its angle measures. So you're going to pick one according to angles. And then on the bottom portion, the last 3, so what were those? They were E, F, and then the G that you added. You're going to do the same thing. You have to pick one of these. Okay, so for each of those 5 triangles on page 100, you're going to go ahead and give it 2 names. I will tell you that the very last one has 2 names, but there is a 3rd name that you could also give it. So go ahead and work your way through those. When you're finished, check with me and you can go ahead and check your answers out of my book. Good luck with this, and just remember, pay attention to those angle measures. Look at your largest angle measure to help you decide the type of triangle it is according to its angles. And when you get to according to sides, you can use angle measures to help you. And remember, with isosceles and scalene, iso means to isolate. And so therefore, if you've got one side that's isolated or standing by itself, then that means that it would be called an isosceles triangle. Good luck with this one.